Every year, between 200,000 and 350,000 Swedes travel to Thailand to escape the bitter winter cold. That may not sound like all that much, but Sweden only has a population of 10.5 million. So each year, between 2 and 3% of Sweden's entire population travel all the way across the world to get some sun. Why is that? Well, there are many reasons, and some might be glaringly obvious, like this beach, for example, but some might not be. Let's dive into the question of why so many Swedes flock to Thailand. Thailand has a bit of an odd reputation. It's a country with a long and complicated history, and it's full of natural beauty. Thailand is known as the land of smiles, and that's something that certain cultures find suspicious. Thai people smile to show respect and to maintain harmony, and it's frowned upon to lose your temper. Some cultures think that Thai smiles are fake because of that. They're not smiling because they're happy to see you, they just want your money. Well, duh, how is that different from the fake smile that every waitress in the US has plastered on? And do you seriously think that people in Turkey or Egypt are really happy to see you and they just want to offer coffee because you're so nice? In that case, I have some lovely seaside property in Jämtland to sell to you. You would think that Swedes would be at odds with the Thai smile, but for some reason they're not. Swedes are a layered people, like big onions. First you have a pretty friendly exterior, and then you have a cynical inner layer. And then we have another protective inner layer behind that, and then if you get to the core, then you'll find a person who will be your friend for the rest of your life. So the Thai smiles aren't really all that different from the Swedish smiles. It's a mentality we can work with. We don't assume that someone is our friend just because they're smiling, and that's fine. Swedes aren't here because Thai people are our friends. We're here because it's mutually beneficial for both of us. When you think of reasons that Swedes want to visit Thailand, you don't really have to think that hard. So on one hand you have a country that lies in the cold far north and has a pretty good economy. It's full of middle-class people who are used to traveling, and most, or at least many, can afford at least one vacation per year. But Sweden is also cold and dark and full of depressed people in winter. So is it any surprise that they'd want to go to a beautiful and affordable country where the weather is warm and pleasant? A country where you can find sandy beaches and paradise islands. A country where the food is excellent and they're used to taking care of holidaying families. Yeah, I think you get the point. Thailand has just about everything that Sweden doesn't, especially when it comes to climate. Sweden has 4 seasons, a cold and rainy spring, a wonderful summer that only lasts a few weeks, and then a cold and rainy autumn. Oh, and winter as well, when it's cold and miserable and you don't get any sunlight between November and March. Now let's have a little pop quiz. Can you guess what time of year most Swedes go to Thailand? And the answer is of course winter, especially around Christmas and the New Year's holidays. Some Swedes are a bit smarter though, and they wait until January to get better deals. And that's also when many people get new vacation days to use for the new year. Or they travel in November instead, like I'm doing right now. It's not perfect because it's at the end of the monsoon season on the east coast of Thailand. But I think that I'd rather take some warm rain here than icy November rain in Sweden. But yeah, in short, I think that really says it all, doesn't it? The most important reason for Swedes to visit Thailand is the weather. But there's a bit more to it. If it had only been about the weather, there are other destinations that are much closer. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's see if we can find more reasons that Swedes choose Thailand in particular. The most popular country for Swedes to visit is Denmark. And if you've ever watched this channel, then you know that that makes me quite angry. Danish people are all drunk and lazy, and they don't deserve our tourist money. But on the other hand, they are right next door to us, and Copenhagen is a lovely city to visit. But don't tell the Danes that I said that. 1.7 million Swedes visit Denmark every year, and the other top destinations include, unsurprisingly, Norway and Finland. Germany is also in the top 5 visited countries because it's really close by, and there are some really nice spots there. And then we have Spain. Spain is warm and sunny, and it's not too far off from Sweden. According to one statistic I found online, a whopping 2 million Swedes visit Spain every year. That doesn't really make sense given that Denmark supposedly gets 1.7 million visitors. But oh well, I can't argue with random figures I find online. Actually I can, and I would have, if the exact figures had any type of specific importance. But the main thing is that after Spain, Thailand is one of the top warm destinations for Swedes. Now I have to talk about the elephant in the room. Pretty fitting since it's Thailand, right? Elephant. When searching for information online about Thailand, it's inevitable that you're gonna run into some questionable topics. In some people's minds, Thailand is only a destination for people looking for ping pong shows and hookers. Or even worse, a place for sex offenders targeting children. I'm not even gonna go into that topic because it's far away from Sweden's perception of Thailand. Swedes have an image of Thailand as a place filled with beaches and sun. And I guess big cities as well, like Bangkok. A place where the children can enjoy the swimming pool while you get drunk and catch up on all of those crime novels. But of course, I'm sure that there's plenty of Swedes who go to Thailand for less proper reasons too. Personally, I just enjoy the diving and getting drunk and spending time in the outskirts of the seediness. I've never even been to a ping pong show. I can imagine what it is, but I haven't seen one, so I can't say for sure. But even if most Swedes don't come to Thailand for sex tourism, there's a related topic that might warrant a few words as well. That's of course people who come to Thailand looking for a partner. When reading comments online or talking to expats in Pattaya, I get a feeling that people are pretty cynical about finding a partner in Thailand. There's a lot of people talking about Thai women in a way that feels icky. I'm not gonna give any examples, but I think you can imagine what type of discussions those are. It's very male chauvinistic and even misogynistic at times. Those conversations are all about how to exploit women and how to ensure that the women don't exploit you back, essentially. Now, I don't know how Swedes actually behave when it comes to this. Maybe all Swedes are just as bad as people from other countries, but I don't think so. Sweden is one of the most progressive and gender-equal countries in the world, so I'd like to think that Swedish men behave a bit better. I have this mental image of people from other Western countries as being wolves out hunting. They assume that Thai women want their aged middle-class white asses just because they come from, for example, the US. Meanwhile, I assume that Swedish men are a little bit more like sheep. They're humble and respectful and maybe a bit sheepish compared to people from other cultures. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Many cultures look down on Swedish men as being meek and maybe even effeminate. It's common knowledge in Finland that all Swedish men are gay, for example. And you can find plenty of women on TikTok complaining about Swedish men because they don't feel appreciated in Sweden. They don't get groped or catcalled when they go outside, and Swedish men treat them as equals instead of behaving like cavemen. Horrible, right? How dare Swedish men treat women with respect? Now you can argue about what the right thing is. Maybe equality can go too far, or maybe it hasn't gone far enough at all yet. Either way, I believe, and this is only my personal belief, that this Swedish humility and respect is something that Thai women appreciate. And possibly because of that, there's been plenty of Swedish men who found a mate in Thailand. But that's not entirely uncomplicated. Let's talk about the Swedish perception on Thai marriages. In theory, the match between a Swedish man and a Thai woman shouldn't be all that controversial. The Swedish man is respectful, responsible, and might earn a bit more than most Thai men. And the Thai woman values taking care of the household and is often quite driven, as opposed to many Swedish men. But there's a lot of pushback from society for a marriage like that from both countries. Swedes don't understand Thai culture at all, as in the close family connections and the different values and priorities. So there's often a great clash between the Thai family and Swedish values. And at the same time, a man who finds love in Thailand isn't seen in a good light in Sweden. The stereotype is that it's only Swedish rejects who find a woman over here. So you're a bit ugly and you have some old-fashioned ideas about gender equality. That's why you married a Thai woman, right? You couldn't find someone in Sweden. I'm not saying that that's necessarily true, but that's the stereotype that most people assume when they hear that someone has found a maid over here. And by the way, I mentioned that other cultures look down on Swedish men because of their views on gender equality. The same goes in the other direction. Swedish people view cultures that are less equal as being backwards and immature. It's the lovely Swedish superiority complex. We imagine that those cultures will grow up as well in the future and become like us. So when a Swedish man marries a Thai woman, many assume that he's a bit of a Neanderthal and has some backwards and old-fashioned values. Again, I'm not saying that that's true, but a couple like that will have an uphill battle in both countries. Aside from Swedish men looking for Thai women, there's also a lot of Swedes who bought a house in Thailand. Around 4,500 Swedes are permanent residents in Thailand. But there's a lot more than that who own property, at least part-time, even if they don't live full-time in Thailand. Swedes love spending time in their Swedish communities in Thailand. They go on vacations with other Swedes, they drink Swedish coffee, and they let their Swedish kids play with other Swedish kids. These people often don't care all that much about Thailand itself. It's more about the climates. It's a place to get away from winter. But that's not really any different from all the German or British communities you can find in warm countries. But I still think that it's worth mentioning that there's a lot of Swedes in particular who build communities like this in Thailand. But wait a second, is that statement really true? One of the assumptions in this video is that Sweden in particular has a lot of people visiting Thailand. But that might not be completely true. Sure, 2 to 3% of the entire population is a pretty big number for people to travel 5,000 miles. But Sweden isn't alone in doing so. According to Thai tourism statistics from 2023, Sweden does have a large number of visitors percentage-wise. But so does Norway, and Switzerland and the Netherlands have a higher percentage than Sweden. So I'm not saying that Sweden doesn't have a lot of tourists in Thailand, but it's not exceptionally huge, and that's something that's good to keep in mind, even if the Swedish perception is that there's tons of us here. Norway is just as bad within quotation marks, and so is Switzerland. I wonder how many people mistake Sweden for Switzerland though, so maybe I can't trust those statistics either way. So Sweden might not be exceptional when it comes to the number of people who visit Thailand, but there's still a lot of Swedes here. And it's easy to see why. Thailand is a beautiful country with a lot to offer. I've talked a bit about the food and the climate, and both are of course excellent. But there's also a lot of fascinating history and culture, and a tourism industry that's extremely well built up. That's also something Swedes like about Thailand. Things just work. Maybe not in the most efficient manner, and maybe people are trying to scam you a bit here and there. But in general, it's easy to get around in Thailand, and it's easy to get what you need. Except for possibly snus, you know, the Swedish tobacco pouches. I have stories about Swedes crying for joy when they find Swedish snus on KPP during long trips. There's also diving and nature and cooking classes and a lot more that appeals to Swedes. It's an exotic country, but not too exotic. It's adventurous, but not too adventurous. You can feel that you're in the tropics, but you can also find other Swedes and Swedish coffee here. There are many reasons why Swedes visit Thailand. I tried to list most common ones here, but I'm sure that I missed quite a few. The reasons range from cultural similarities to simplicity to, of course, the weather. It's not the cheapest tourist destination for a Swede, but it's affordable. It's not a dream destination for most Swedes, but it has a lot to offer. Personally, I've had a bit of a complicated relationship with Thailand. Years ago, I avoided it simply because so many Swedes were gushing over their Thailand vacations. I didn't want to travel somewhere where tons of other Swedes go. It felt too touristy, too Swedish. But that changed after the first time I visited in 2013. I visited places like Chiang Mai and Ayutthaya, and I tried to experience a bit of culture and history. And I also visited Koh Tao to get my open water diving license back then. I think that I saw a lot of different aspects of Thailand during those weeks. And sure, some of it was just as touristy as I imagined. But it's also a varied and complicated country with more than sandy beaches and booze. I came back to Thailand in 2015 and in 2017 and in 2022 and now again in 2025. It's just so convenient. It doesn't have the best diving and it's not my favorite tourist destination. Most of the times I visit Thailand, I do it in combination with visits to other countries. But I feel very much at home in Thailand. I enjoy the climate and the food and the convenience of it all. And I enjoy the seedy parts of the country too, or at least some parts of it. Bangla Road and Pattaya are a bit too much. But I'm definitely fulfilling the Swedish stereotype of traveling to Thailand quite often. And I think that I'll be back again. Maybe not for a couple of years, but sooner or later. Because Swedes flock to Thailand, and there seems to be no stopping that. And that's about it for this quick look at why so many Swedes visit Thailand. I hope you found it interesting. Like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day.